Alright, hey guys, welcome to episode 3. Today we're going to be going over limit up, limit down halts, also known as volatility halts, and I have a couple bonus tips. At the end I also have a cheat sheet, but the main things, what they are, how we get to the halt, during the halt, and estimating the resumption time. I will say quickly about the resumption time, it's very hard to get any color info. I went through so many documents and contacted people as well. I even tried calling NAS a couple times, and no one seems to have the exact explanation. And the documents that I did find are, quite a couple years old, so they could be outdated. But I think, for the most part, they're pretty accurate. So could have some inaccuracies, but um, I think I'd say you can just trust it with a bit of discretion. So first up, what is it? Sure, all of you guys know. Especially in the small cap world, it happens like almost daily. Every now and then you get some mid-sized large caps as well. Um, but it was just introduced to prevent, extraordinary volatility, right? To stop a stock from going from $1 to $3 within, a minute per se. Um, and it prevents trades beyond specific price bands. So when a stock's trading, you'll see that there are limit up and limit down bands. Anyone with on any broker, I would say, that's not like a brokey broker will have it. So here's an example. Sorry, very blurry pictures is the only one I could find. So this is on Lightspeed. Hopefully you can see, but limit up, limit down was there. And then when the price, let's say this is a down halt, for example, when offers come down and stack at that limit up, limit down price for 15 seconds without it breaking, that's when something actually gets halted. So it's exactly 15 seconds. So if you're trading one and it gets up to that, just count to 15 and it'll be halted. If it breaks for even 1 second or one trade, so if basically one trade occurs outside of these prices, then it'll be reset and so on. Okay, so how is it calculated? So first you get the reference prices calculated. You don't even worry about this. It's just a bunch of nonsense. Like I said, make sure you have it on your level 2 on your montage and you'll always be able to see. But you can also just have a rough idea. This just goes over exactly how it's calculated. You can read it if you want. Maybe it's just good to know, but that gets updated every 30 seconds. So the limit up, limit down price will get updated. Um, but this is what really matters. So we're mostly going to be trading tier 2 stocks. I mean, tier 1 stocks rarely get it, but if you do, it's 5% bands. But tier 2 stocks are just pretty much all the stocks that, any stock basically. If the previous close is above $3, so it's always based on the prior close, then it's 10%. So I put stars on the ones that are important really. Um, if this close is between 75 and $3, it's 20% bands. If it's below 75 cents, it's 15 cents or 75%. So I actually have a good example here on AHI, a recent one, and this is why you get these kind of like cheap names that just have really tight halt bands, because on the prior day they close below 75 cents. So if ever you see a stock that's gapping up that closes at, let's say, 74, 73 cents, maybe there is some reason for that. Who knows, right? That's why these have small halt bands the whole day. Um, and then you can see during market close times, these halt bands get widened, right? So 335 to 4. And I think also, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, those are the important ones. All right, next. Um, all right, when a stock is halted. So like I said, if the 15 seconds pass and it gets halted, obviously no trade is going to go through anymore. But you can see the quotes. So this is just a screenshot from DAS, their level 2. You can see there was a 76k buy imbalance. On this, on this data here, you can't see like exactly where those buy orders are at. Um, but you can see there's a 76k buy imbalance. Now, I'd say the more important is the paired and the price. So the paired this is pretty much the volume that's going to go when it resumes the print. 68k is going to get printed pretty much at 8:58. So that's how you're going to know where it's going to open at. Now on DAS, for example, you can only see this for Nasdaq names. NISA names you will have to use another platform or another way. It's kind of annoying. Um, and I'll say 99 times out of 100 it will resume at the paired. Uh, very thin stocks or that have very little paired. Really only see this with some Chinese low floats. The way they can not open right at the paired, and that probably is just because they probably put in a bunch of orders like a millisecond before it's supposed to resume, etc. But take it with a grain of salt that it's all just pretty much I'd say ignore that and just know that pair price is where it's going to open. Other thing I'll say, I always see a lot of the time something halts and people go, oh wow, indication 100, 200, 1,000, 2,000. You can ignore it. That is going to get paired. I've never seen a scenario where you get a gap up like that, like an indication of 10,000 that happens. It doesn't happen, okay? So, but let's say 2-3 minutes pass and it's holding up there. For example, ATXG, which I'll actually give another example later. Um, After this up halt, it was indicating, pretty much there the whole time and it wasn't going down, then you can know, okay, it's probably going to open there. You might be there, okay? Um, but yeah, really the last 30 seconds matters, really. All right, now when will it resume? I have the more detailed slides after. This is just, quickly, if it's a big gap over 10%, it's going to be at least 10 minutes. And that's looking obviously at the paired price, right? The indicator. If the gap is small, 5 minutes. And if it's NISA, because NISA's weird, I'll show an example of why later, it can be random. As after 5 minutes, it will always be at least 5 minutes, no matter what exchange, what stock. But yeah. Now the reasoning is because there's this thing called auction collars, and they pretty much work as thresholds to like the maximum stock can gap up or down, and this is how it's determined here. So we'll just look at this one, right? 10%. So say the stock gaps halts at 10, it can only gap up 10%, right? Otherwise it'll get delayed, and every 5 minutes they get widened by 5%. So initially it's 10%. After 5 minutes, that gets widened to 15%, and then 20%, 25, 30, 35. So a name like ATXG just didn't have enough time, I think, for the auction collar to come down based on where it was indicating. But yeah, all right. After 10 minutes, oh, and like I said before, NISA names can open randomly. So let's actually show you an example here. So for example, Kodak, this is halted for 7 minutes on this halt here, and it opened down like 30%. So that's just NISA being weird. Another one we have is Up. This is a recent one. It opened at like 5 minutes 30 seconds after it halted, and the gap was 13%. You'll not see that with Nasdaq, by the way. Nasdaq tends to always open like on the dot, maybe a second or two late. All right. Yeah, and then after 10 minutes has passed, like I said, with NISA, you're always going to be aware that it can be random, but with Nasdaq ones, the auction collars work the same way, but there are other methods, like there's other reopening criteria, which there's really no way that you're going to know about, but it can pretty much open randomly. So kind of treat it as 10 minutes have passed. If it didn't open on the dot 10 minutes, it could open anytime after that, all right? You can know based on the gap and the indication, kind of you can, I guess, do the math, but it's really a lot of effort. It's better just to be prepared, I would say. And the other thing, if something's halted and it doesn't resume before 350, it will resume at 4. So two examples of this one. So ATXG, same examples before, halted, didn't open before 350, resumes at 4, okay? Um, and another one here, ELOX, halted at like 340 something. These are 2-minute candles. Didn't open before 4, between 350 and 4. Sorry, before 350. Opens at 4, okay? I mean, you see this a lot. And I think I mentioned later, but you want to know your routes because you don't want to be stuck in something that gets thin after hours, like that ATXG, which it even printed up to 2000. So you just want to be careful. So NISA, the reason why I already showed you these two examples is because they can be manually opened. At least I think that's the reason why. Maybe there's a better explanation. But I'll actually show you another example here. This is not a halt, but you can see I forget what name this was, but I had the screenshot somewhere. The NISA came in like 6 minutes late. All right, so before this, like it wasn't really open. So that's why all the volume came in randomly. You have to be careful because sometimes the small caps, it'll trade for like 2-3 minutes and then it'll have a big candle out of nowhere, and that's because that's when it actually opened. So be careful, especially with NISA names if you're positioned, I'd say big, from market open, but it's not actually open because you might really mess up what you think you're risking out against, or what your real risk is. And like I said, they work in 5-minute increments, really. More so for Nasdaq. I think this is an old side, so we can actually ignore that. And then here's a cheat sheet I made. Just you can just see price close over 3, 10% bands. Between that, 20% bands. Below that, it's it's always going to be 15 cents. I've never seen like the 75% thing. And then I just have a cheat sheet. So if we just go a random example, stock halted. Let's say it's gapping up, indication's 20%, right? So then it'd be halted for an extra 5 minutes. The auction call now gets widened, but like I said, it was 20%. So it'll get delayed again by another 5 minutes. Auction call gets widened, and it can, if it's 20%, it'll open after 15 minutes, really. Um, but yeah, it might not be on the dot 5 minutes, okay? And here, just if it's NISA, can be pretty much can be random, but follows Nasdaq rules if automatic. And like I said, learn your routes. It's very important because I've seen a lot of times, like even on liquid stocks, people say, "Oh, I couldn't get out. Oh, I got stuck. Oh, it's trading thin," when it's doing like 500K bars. It's just that they don't know what orders to use, right? If you're like, "Oh shit, I'm stuck," just figure out how you can get filled in the print. Contact your broker, ask them what routes. You could probably just use a market order. Ask them what route they recommend, how you can get filled on the imbalance, etc. Because like something like ALEG, there was I don't know how many people complaining about that. I was also short, and I just covered here. I literally I think I covered here or whatever. Um, and I mean this thing was doing 400K bars, so I mean unless you're trading 100K shares, I mean maybe you'll probably make the indication go up 20 30 cents, but at least you'll get filled, right? So I would say that's probably the most important tip. Yeah, and I think that's it. Any questions, let me know. Next video will probably be on S1s and S3s, and I'll probably start going down the dilution route. Thanks.